Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my channel and all the good things. Today's card uses several oldie but goodie dies, a stamp set, and a stencil set that I've used many times. As of filming this, I don't have a playlist for any of it because you guys know. For those that aren't aware, I set up many playlists on my channel. If you go to my main channel page, there are several. I probably need to like redo that as well. Because I have all sorts of playlists. I have, you know, all my Halloween series playlists, my Christmas series playlists, my beautiful flowers videos playlists. The list goes on. I have tons of them. And when I do videos and I keep using certain products over and over again, I create a playlist to put all those videos in one spot because I post a lot of videos and it makes it easier to find them. So a lot of times I will link to the corresponding videos up in the, yeah, it'll be on this side, the upper right corner of my videos. A little icon pops up, and if you hover over it, it'll be a link to, you know, another video I've done. Sometimes it corresponds, sometimes it's just random ones that I just add because. And then at the end of my videos, at the end screen, I will post, again, sometimes corresponding videos or links to playlists that apply, etc. So there's always ways to find all that, but that's how that all works. And yeah, I used the etched layered daisy stem again because it is one of my favorites. This has been in many videos. I will hopefully either I'll do it before I actually get this video up. I'll do a playlist and put in all of the cards. Sometimes it's hard even for me to find them all because searching through all my old videos, it's like, oh yeah, you know. So I will attempt that before this video goes live. Otherwise, they're there. But yeah, I use that and several other favorites to make a fun rainbow themed card, or like, yeah, rainbow colors. You can never go wrong with rainbows. So yeah, stay tuned and I will show you guys how I made it. So I ended up making a 5x7 card, which I don't do very often, but I wanted more space to fit more flowers on since I was going with a rainbow of said flowers. So I have a piece of Simon Says Stamps smooth white cardstock, and it's about 4.5 by 6.5. And I'm using the FANFARE stencil. Like I said earlier, this is one of my kind of oldie but goodie favorites. I forget how long this has been out, but it has been in many of my card making videos because I love it. And it's still got a little bit of stick on the back of it from whenever I did a video literally forever ago. And I use pixie spray because when I do use pixie spray on my stencils, I just rinse the stencil off and the stick kind of remains, and there's still a little bit on the back of this one, even though I've used it like multiple times, washed it, everything. Anywho, I put the stencil over the background and I used one of my paper Pouncers and Simon's TIDEPOOL Pawsitively saturated ink. Then I put the background in my splat box and I used a bit of Merry Mint Distress Mica stain. With the mica stains or any spray that has like a mica or a solid pigment, you want to make sure you shake it up very, very, very well. Otherwise, they will clog and you're just not going to have a good time. So, shook it up really well. Added some spray to give it, you know, some texture and splatter, and there'll be shimmer and stuff too. And then I set that background aside. And off camera, I trimmed down I prepped like a bunch of different colors of cardstock to die cut with this etched layered daisy stem die set. And I had my little piles of cardstock, so everything's just ready to go, so I can just sit and do all of this at once. And use my little Griffin EMPRESS mini. I've shown this in a bunch of videos. I've had this for a few months now. Yeah, love it. It's great. Regardless of what die cut machine you use, when it comes to any sort of die cutting, but especially when if you're die cutting like multiples of the same thing, I move the dies around. I flip my die cutting plate. I always keep one plate that I call the die cutting plate. That's that top one that's been cut into a million times. And then the other die cutting plate's always on the bottom that I keep clean. But I always like flip my plates around, like flip them back and forth, rotate them, and then I always move the dies around. And that is a big help to prevent your die cutting plates from warping. Although it is true with these Griffin machines and the plates specifically, they're thicker than any other die cut plates I've used. And you guys can see that die cut plate. I've used this machine a lot because I do this as a job. So yeah, so far so good. So anywho, after I was done all my die cutting, I wasn't originally going to do this, but it adds extra depth. So I just grabbed Copic Markers and just did quick, very simple coloring of the petals of all these die cuts. And I would just grab like a red for the red, orange for the orange, etc. And I would just flick the marker from the base of the petal outwards. That's it. This is sped up in editing, but it still doesn't take very long. And it does add like depth. And again, I wasn't going to do this. I was only going to just color the flower centers because I was like, maybe I'll just die cut little scraps of black cardstock for my flower centers, you know, with the top daisy portion, and then just trim off the little bits and adhere it. And I was like, why go to all that effort when I can just use a marker? So that's what I was going to do. And then I was like, oh, maybe I should add a little bit more to make the petals and everything, you know, because it adds some dimension. So I did that with all of the blooms, and then I did it with the stems as well, so that everything, you know, is matchy, and it just gives it that little extra something. And everything I got on, because I'm working on a glass work surface, when it comes to alcohol-based markers, I don't worry about it. When I'm done, I move everything kind of out of the way, and I just do a quick little like spritz with some hand sanitizer, or rubbing alcohol works as well, and it wipes right off. No issues there. So I went around and used the black marker for the flower centers. Quick, simple, love. And then I just adhered the actual daisy portions together. I thought for half a second about like adhering like the stems to it too, but ended up deciding not to because I wanted to do everything separate so I could kind of stagger all the different things. So adhered the pieces together, and then I've got my little pile of rainbow colors of daisies, which they're just cheerful and happy. I love it. So went through that process, adhered them together just using my craft tacky glue. And then once I had those assembled, basically, and yeah, I was thinking about adding the stems, and I was like, no, that'll be when I adhere everything to the card front. For my sentiments, I am using the, again, oldie but goodie stamp set. This is the Greetings Mix 1 stamp set that I have been using off and on, again, forever. And I purposely chose this You Are Everything Wonderful sentiment. I put a piece of black cardstock into my mini MISTI, and I used some anti-static powder. And then I stamped the sentiment with clear embossing ink, coated it with detail white embossing powder, and then I just used a dry paintbrush to remove a few little, you know, specks of embossing powder that were just being stubborn. Melted it with my heat tool. Once everything was smooth and melted, I used one of my microfiber cloths to just wipe away that excess anti-static powder. And then I'm going to die cut that with one of Simon's Sentiment Label wafer dies. So I taped the wafer die into place with bits of washi tape so that it doesn't move when I die cut it. And then after I die cut it, I used another little wafer die in that same Sentiment Label set. I almost never use these. I just don't reach for them. But they come in handy. I've shown in other videos just using scissors to do this, but man, it's easier when a die, and then plus the die gives it that little like pressure cut edge. That's what I like, you know. It's a subtle thing, but it makes a difference in my opinion. So anyway, I taped that into place, ran it through my die cut machine again, and then my card base, more smooth white cardstock that I had cut down to 7 inches by 10 inches, and then I score it at 5 inches with my Teflon bone folder. So this will be a 5 by 7 card. So I made my card base, and right now I'm just using it as a guide because I didn't feel like cutting off any of the actual blooms, like I have no problem doing this. I've shown it in a bunch of videos. I've had some people like literally freak out on me over that. When I'd hear things and it's like, you wait, all that work and you wasted it and you cut off, the bits hanging over. And I was like, dude, it's paper. It's fine. It's fine. And besides, it's a mind thing. Your brain actually just finishes the image for you when like parts of it are cut off. It's fine. Anyway, just all that to say, with these I didn't want to though. I wanted the blooms. I'm gonna cut off the bottoms of the stems. That's gonna be fine. But I used my card base as kind of a little visual guide when I was adhering the outermost daisies to this so that I wouldn't have to trim them off. And then of course I arranged them in rainbow order. And then I would tuck in the stems and I would just kind of trim down either, the top portion of the stem just to kind of stagger where the leaves were, etc. Got everything adhered, flipped it over, used that edge as a guide and trimmed off the stems hanging off the bottom. And then for the sentiment, I'm using some waffle flower foam strips. I have used these in many videos. They come in 2 different thicknesses and you can get them in white and black. And of course I have both because you got to have options. So this is the 1/16 of an inch black foam strip. So I put those on the back of the sentiment. Once those are in place, I'm going to line that up and then again, flip over this piece and trim off that little excess bit with my scissors. And then on the inside of the card, I'm going to use my trusty Post-it tape, the piece that I always reuse over and over again until it doesn't stick anymore. I just keep it stuck. I have a little plastic like trash can on my desk and I just keep the Post-it tape stuck to that. And I, grab it and reuse it over and over, literally over again until the thing is so used up. So masked off where the score line was. And then I use that stencil again with the same TIDEPOOL ink and my little paper pouncer. So I stenciled that onto the inside of the card. And then I took another sentiment from that Greetings Mix 1 stamp set. And this I just put on an acrylic block. And I'm just going to stamp that right in the center of the card base with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. That'll finish the inside of the card. And then I was mentally I was like, should I matte this panel? Should I pop it up with a bit of foam tape? Like just the random thoughts that go through my head when I'm making a card. And instead of that, I decided to just use my Memento Tuxedo black marker and I'm just edging this cardstock. I don't do this very often. This is usually more of a trick I'll do if I fussy cut something that I've stamped and then you use the marker to conceal that exposed white edge, etc. But it also is a nice way. It gives just a very subtle finishing touch when you're layering cardstock. So I went along just using the flat edge of the marker along the edge of the white cardstock, and I used my little Post-it tape again just to insert in between those bits of the die cut flowers that were hanging over so I don't end up getting marker all over everything because, it's all adhered now, so I'm working a little harder to keep from making a mess. So edge that with that black marker and then adhered this just flat to the card base instead of using foam tape. So once I got that adhered into place, I was at this point I was almost done. I was like, I'll just add some bling, of course, and call it a day. So my bling is some Trinity Stamps cinnamon red hearts. I love these. They're so fun. So I arranged a few of those onto the background. Once I was happy with that, like where I'd placed them, I just adhered them into place with the dabs of craft tacky glue. And again, could have been done here, but then I was like, but wait, there's more. I grabbed my tonic aqua shimmer pen and decided to add a little bit of bling to the daisies because why not? It'll just give it a bit of shimmer. It's kind of subtle. You don't really see it here on camera, but of course I will show at the end. I'll turn on my flashlight so you guys can see the sparkle because it's amazing. And I did it the same way I did with the Copic markers. I just kind of flicked the pen just to add that little bit of shimmer, but I'm not coating like the whole thing with it. You totally could. Why not? More is more. But yeah, I just wanted to add that little extra something. So I just went along and added it to the petals. And again, concentrating more from like the base of the petal outwards. So just kind of flicked it. And yeah, it's just going to add that extra shimmer, glittery goodness. And once I did that, I then took my white white gel pen. My brain stopped. Jelly roll. My Jelly Roll white gel pen, the 10, the widest one, and use that to add just little highlights to the centers of each of these daisies. Again, it just gives it that little extra something. So first it was the Aqua Shimmer pen. I always like to do that first if, you know, I'm planning things ahead of time. The Aqua Shimmer pen, depending, it wouldn't matter with these because the white gel pen isn't touching any of the areas that I was adding the shimmer to, but you always want to do your white gel pen last. Things like Aqua Shimmer pen, glossy accents, etc., they will dissolve white gel pen highlights. Just FYI if you weren't aware of that. So always do the white gel pen the very last. So added those little highlights and that was it. So I will show with my flashlight so you guys can actually see the sparkle, and there's the shimmer in the background too, which is super fun. And then, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'll have links to potentially a playlist depending, or at least other videos. At the end of this video, I will have a link below the video in the description box. I'll have a link to my blog post that'll have the photos, picture links to everything I used, etc. That'll be linked below, along with the supply list that'll link to all the supplies I used. So you can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping and commenting and telling the robot overlords you like what you see. And subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.